Alright, I thought I'd do an introduction to this channel just so you know what you're going to get here. What this channel is not, is it's not going to be a fanboy channel where I just wax lyrical about a particular fighter and just praise them non-stop and never have any criticism of them. But at the same time, nor am I going to give equal amounts of criticism to fighters, and there's a good reason for this. Many fighters draw attention to themselves and are trending. So why would it wouldn't make sense for me to make videos about some obscure guy who is also a trash talker, who has no following whatsoever, whose videos, if I do a video about them, I'm going to get 3 views. I crank out a lot of videos on Tyson Fury, and the reason is he's very relevant today. The videos get good engagement, and he draws attention to himself by claiming he's the greatest fighter to have ever lived. Now, he hasn't gone anywhere near to the lengths that he needs to go to prove that he's the greatest fighter that ever lived, so I've made lengthy videos breaking down his statements and the things he said and debunking them. But at the same time, I have no personal vendetta against him. I don't hate the man, and I find him entertaining when he fights. So, of course, when I see unfair criticism, I'm going to talk about that. How long ago now? 10 years ago, Floyd Mayweather would have been the target because he was claiming to be the greatest of all time. He had a massive following, and people were starting to buy into it. But he's not around these days, so I don't do videos about him. To me, Tank Davis looks like he's going to be the next one, who I'm probably going to have to start doing very, very long videos about, because he's going to start claiming very soon that he's at least the best pound for pound of his generation, when he's done nothing to prove that. Now, just because I criticize someone, like I said, doesn't mean I hate them. And just because I praise somebody doesn't mean I like them. Right, so Alexander Usyk said something recently which was absolute BS. I don't know if it was mistranslated, which is one of the reasons I don't tend to make videos about statements made by non-English speaking fighters. He doesn't speak particularly good English. But he said, essentially, he doesn't knock people out because they have a family and he's thinking about them. And I commented, so in his first 10 fights when he was fighting journeyman, right, in his first 10 fights, why was he happy to knock these journeymen out who had absolutely no hope? Right, and somebody commented, calling me a loser or whatever it was, because I pointed out the truth. So, by telling the truth, a lot of the time you'll upset all kinds of different fanboys and die-hard fans of fighters and just celebrities in general. And I have no problem doing that because, at the end of the day, I've been a fanboy of fighters when I was younger, and actually hearing objective factual evidence against their claims made me much more level-headed as a person and to understand myself better. You know, when I was a kid, I was a Muhammad Ali fanboy. Then, as a teenager, a Floyd Mayweather fanboy. And then, when I discovered Roy Jones, because I learned my lessons from, understanding that neither Muhammad Ali nor Floyd Mayweather were invincible, I never saw Roy Jones as invincible. Because you have to understand, I wasn't watching boxing when Roy Jones was around. So when you see his highlight reel, you're thinking, oh my God, this is just absolutely exceptional, which it was. But when I looked at the opponents he'd fought, I understood, yeah, he's fought some very good opponents, but some of his highlight reels were against not so good opponents. Now, I still consider Roy Jones one of the greatest fighters to have ever lived. I'm going to do a separate series on that on fighters that I consider to potentially have greatest of all time status, but I never saw him as this unbeatable fighter, and although I bought into some of the excuses about why he started to slip up and lose, I never wholly bought into them. You know, Joe Calzaghe, even though Roy Jones wasn't at his best, neither was Calzaghe. Calzaghe would have always been a harder fight for Roy Jones than, say Mike McCallum. Mike McCallum, very good fighter, obviously, or Vinny Pazienza, that's a better example. That was a highlight reel knockout. I'm telling you now, he would not have dealt with Joe Calzaghe in such an easy fashion. Now, I don't really do picks on fights, and the reason is, you've got a 50% chance of winning, right? Well, people go, oh, well, if it's a draw, then it's a 1 in 3. Okay. It's not exactly difficult. I picked Joshua to beat Jermaine Franklin in 7 rounds. Technically, I got the fight right because I picked Anthony Joshua, but my breakdown was just completely off. And what I've noticed a lot of the time is people will pick one guy to win, they get it wrong, and they just focus on what they got right. What this is really going to be about, this channel, is I'm going to do a separate series on rewriting boxing history, so righting wrongs that I think took place, not necessarily just wrongs, but also things like, what if this fight had happened, like Fury versus David Haye? What if that fight had happened at the time? To me, that's an interesting question. And explore how the boxing world might be different if things had gone differently. I'm going to do like the myth surrounding certain fighters. There's myths surrounding practically every fighter I can think of that is in the Hall of Fame. Muhammad Ali, I want to do a very, very long one on him because it's not just his fighting ability, but his character as a man. There's Floyd Mayweather, obviously, Roy Jones Jr. Going further back, well, not further back, but Mike Tyson. You know, lots of people just buy into these endless excuses as to why he lost and believe he would have been 100-0 if he'd stuck with, almost called him Wayne Rooney, Kevin Rooney. Right, so that's what this channel is going to be about. It's going to be more about analysis of fights after they've happened, about fighters training, rewriting boxing history, and just giving my thoughts and musings on what I think should happen. You know, which fights I think should happen, and try and give a balanced view on everything. Now, I understand we all have our subconscious biases, and some of them conscious that we just decide to ignore. That's fine. Call me out on any bias. That's absolutely fine. You can do that. You know, my myth surrounding Tyson Fury video, somebody said, all this talk doesn't matter, he's going to beat Usyk. So, okay, you know, that's fine. You know, you can believe that. It's not unreasonable to believe he would beat Usyk. I asked him, I think it was twice, what do you think of the Fury versus Chisora 3 fight? And he just completely ducked the question because he realised the guy that he idolises is taking a crap fight and trying to milk people for money. You know, so understand, I don't see these people as deities or gods. I just see them as people. I don't want to meet them. Don't want to, you know, be their friend or anything like that. Top level athletes and performers in general aren't exactly known for being very nice people to be around as it is. You know, they have public personas to make them seem more likeable, and that's it. Alright, so that's the introduction to the channel. Don't forget to comment and subscribe, and have yourself a good day. Thank you. Oh, and like the video.